What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Fourth and Wrong. We are on episode 8. Today is April 29th, 2024. Today's episode, we're going to discuss the draft in whole, some obviously shocking picks, discuss some moves in the transfer portal. We're going to talk a little cheating in baseball. What? We're going to dive deep into the draft with a bunch of graphics that Chris has made for the pod. And we are going to look at some early 2025 mocks. Plus, we're going to talk some spring games from this past weekend. Still spring games going on, which I didn't really realize until I started seeing highlights.
Now, but it was like all the Pac-12 games and stuff.
Yeah, the conference that doesn't exist anymore.
Pac-2, yeah. I guess it's Big Ten now.
Thank you guys for joining in live. We will let the chat build up here as we go live. 8:30 here on a Monday. If you haven't yet thus far, go give us a little like and subscribe. Maybe hit the notification bell so when we go live, it goes right onto your phone. You can tune in, join us in the chat, the award-winning chat. It won an award, Chris. Did you see that?
No, what did it win?
Best chat.
That's good. That's like as good as you can get for chats. So
Evan Grimes in the chat again. Thanks for showing up, Evan. This time you are not the first commenter. So
what?
Sandman 23.
Sandman, thank you for joining us. Let's not drop the R word right off the bat. Maybe not ever, but definitely not right off the bat as our intro. But yeah, we're gonna talk about the Bills. The Bills, that was a weird draft they had, so I get where you're coming from, because that was like they just kept trading back like a little bit. The Bills handled their first pick of the draft the way I used to handle us starting a show. Like, just give me 5 more minutes, just like 5 more minutes, I'll figure it out. And then you'd be like, okay, just fucking tell me whenever you're ready. That's the Bills. Where's the hockey game? You been watching these hockey matches?
I can't say that I have.
That sounds right.
I currently have the Yankees and Orioles on.
Gross.
Orioles are fun to watch, man. Their roster is ridiculous.
Yeah, very young.
Yep. All right, so let's dive into this draft first.
Yeah.
Because, man, the Falcons really upset people.
So, when's the last time we talked?
I think we were texting day of the draft when it was happening.
But like on here, it was like right before the draft, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was like 30 minutes before the draft. And
you kept saying, I'm hearing they're going to trade up for a quarterback, and I was like, there's literally no fucking chance they trade up for a quarterback.
Who, the Falcons?
Yeah, and of course, against all odds, they found a way to trade up for a quarterback. We don't need to beat a dead horse.
Well, first of all, they didn't trade up, so let's get that out of the way.
Right. Yes, that is true. They just were so shitty.
Now, they did trade up in the second round for a guy who most people had going in the fourth round, so we can't totally absolve them from trading up to do something stupid. They just took their first pick as it lied there at the 8th. Now, I totally get the negative side of it. Okay. Because let's just say everything goes to plan for the Falcons. They say, look, Cousins is our guy. There's going to be no problems in the locker room. So let's take everything best case scenario here. No problems. Kirk Cousins is healthy. They're not going to be picking up top, Chris, for the next couple of years because it's going to be so good.
Right.
We got to take the quarterback now. So they say, let's take the guy that we thought was the best talent, maybe outside of a Caleb Williams, and we'll just let him sit for 2 years. The Kirk contract is basically 2 years for $100 million, and then you can let him go for decently cheap.
Right. Or it's 4 for 180, and he's wildly successful, and all of our dreams come true. Which is a Falcons fan, like there's zero chance that happens.
So it would be great if, and then within all that, Penix ends up being like the next Patrick Mahomes. Like
sure.
Or maybe not even him. Maybe not Mahomes. Maybe he's more. I don't know. He's not a mobile guy, so maybe he's not Josh Allen, but upper echelon quarterback, right?
Yeah,
that would be fantastic. The problem is that it rarely seems that what the Falcons think is a smart idea ends up being a good idea.
So let's backtrack for a second and talk about the recent history of how badly this franchise has fucked up the quarterback position. Matt Ryan, who just signed a one-day contract to retire as a Falcon, love the move, love the fact that Matty Ice does not have any ill will against us as a franchise. But let's also keep in mind, this is a dude they were like, hey, listen, our most success we've ever had, has come with you at the helm. We built a sustainable franchise around you.
And it's not your problem that we didn't.
Right.
You won the MVP that year. Like,
right.
Dream season.
So 2016 happens. We all know 28-3, all that kind of stuff. But then in like the end of his career, when you don't sign Julio and let him retire here, and now Julio is bouncing around Philly and the Titans, and I think with Tampa Bay one year, like all those places, you don't do that. What's up, Harry Legee? You don't do that. Then you don't give him any help, right? You don't give him any help at the skill position. Cordarrelle Patterson's been a running back for this team recently.
Yeah,
that's insane. So it's not like Cordarrelle Patterson, who is a wide receiver and really good special teams player. He was your running back, and it wasn't like he was your running back when he was 24 and you were at a pinch. You just made that a decision that he was going to play. Now I'm on a soapbox. I'm pissed. But like going back to the quarterback situation, that makes it so stupid. You could have re-signed Matt Ryan. You could have re-signed Matt Ryan and then taken
that was the bridge. Yeah.
Right. And taking Desmond Ridder or Malik Willis. When I thought that you should have taken him in a very, very bad quarterback draft. You could have done those things. Let them sit, let them develop. Because you knew damn well they were not going to start. They weren't good enough to start in the NFL right away. But instead, you flirted with Deshaun Watson. Yes. And then botched that, which is I'm glad you did because that guy's the fucking worst.
Yeah, they'd be in a much worse situation had they actually signed him.
But the fact that you flirted with him so poorly and then let that cost you Matt Ryan staying, and so he goes to Indy, you don't get Watson, which again, that's great. But now you're just sitting here and you're like, well, I guess we'll get Desmond Ridder. I guess Desmond Ridder's going to start. Tyler, Taylor, Trevin, whatever his fucking name is, Heineke is like your best quarterback on the roster last year.
Hey Chris, let's backtrack even more before that. They signed Mariota and he quits in the middle of the season.
That also happened.
Then it's widely bantied about that you may go after Lamar Jackson and totally change your franchise. They come out publicly and say we have no interest in Lamar Jackson. None at all. Desmond Ridder's our guy.
There's not a better fit for the city of Atlanta for the current quarterbacks than Lamar fucking Jackson. And they were like, no, we're good.
Yeah, we got Des the Ridder.
So
gave up on him after a year of starting, which they probably could have.
Part of this feels like it's my fault that I jinxed it because I said over and over and over again. Like last week I said on radio, check out my sick ass tattoo. Getting another one on Sunday for my birthday, by the way. You guys
really?
In the chat what I should get? No, probably not. I told Allie I was going to get prodigal dad if we ever get pregnant, but that's a bad idea. Anyway, hopefully she's not watching.
Floated that vibe out there, like that you guys would get pregnant. That's
probably shouldn't have said that. No. So anyway, so all that happens, right? All that happens, and then you're sitting in the draft. I said this all the time last week. I love the idea of taking a quarterback and letting him develop and sit and learn the offense. If you have the patience to do that as a quarterback and as an athlete, it takes a special kind of person. Like the best examples off the top of my head, Aaron Rodgers is the best all-time example who did it, right? Thank you, Allie, in the chat for sure. Good. In college, the best example we can get to, and a team that we're going to talk about a lot on this episode. So please sit through and stick it out for this rant. But Georgia, Carson Beck, there's not a better example of like what it can look like if you are not in a rush to become a bust. And I say all that to say Penix was there and you took him because you were so high on how good of a quarterback he could be. But the value of where you got him, you could have just done so much more. You could have traded up and got another first rounder, especially if you were going to shit the bed on the rest of the picks for like the second and through like fourth round. Or you could have traded back and still got a defensive player because the first one didn't go until pick 15 or something like that. And then still got Penix later in the first round. But instead,
I don't agree with that part. I think Penix would have been taken by the Raiders.
Okay, so then okay.
So if you wanted him,
all right, I'll just
and this is where I agree with a lot of people that are negative about it. I'm actually fine with the Penix pick in a vacuum at 8 because I do think that he has the potential to be the second best quarterback in the draft at the end of the day. Okay. And I also liked the Cousins signing in a vacuum. But like when you pair them, it's kind of weird. Now we'll see how it all plays out. Penix could end up being the guy in 2 years, and they're like, "Wow, everyone's gonna forget about the Cousins thing." It's like, "Wow, they were right on that." But given the track record of the Falcons, I could probably safely say something will go horribly wrong here.
Yeah.
A lot of people have made
a third ACL we didn't know he had located in his throwing shoulder.
A lot of people made the good point that Cousins is not going to be in OTAs. He's coming off an Achilles. So Penix is your starter in OTAs. Like, what if now it's a good problem to have, but what if he pops off and these guys are like, why are we going to have this?
Right. What if we create a quarterback controversy after sinking $100 million into Kirk Cousins?
Yeah. This motherfucker's coming in dressing in Cole's gear, and we got Penix slinging around in the lot. And, it's like that could happen. Now, that's a good problem to have, kind of. Well, if you have a young stud quarterback, everybody wants that. But
sure.
Kirk Cousins, if you were wondering, hey, maybe he is like the best and they could just go trade Cousins. No, Cousins actually has a no trade clause, so can't trade him.
Okay, here's the other thing. My reaction to this was I was very upset, and like I hate to be that person. Like there's always somebody undrafted. It's like, oh no, like you saw the Raiders guy who got roasted because his reaction to the Brock Bowers thing. I'll tell you what, fun fact, that guy was right about his reaction to Brock Bowers being drafted. Brock Bowers is probably a top 5 player overall in this draft. I can't think of a team that would need him less than the fucking Raiders. You have Waller still, I believe, at tight end, and you also still have and Michael Mayer.
Waller, yeah, but they did just draft Mayer last year.
Right.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is I don't want to be that guy overreacting to a draft pick, even though we spent the first 10 minutes talking about this. But like what pisses me off is everyone at the very least, you might not be able to get in the head of a GM or like the draft and whatever, but you at least know the needs of every single wants and needs, just like that fucking Drake and Lil Baby song. You know the wants and needs of every single team in the draft. And then what you also know is like, because I forgot who said this to me. They were like, well, at least like Cousins was on board with it because they wouldn't have done it if he wasn't. And I was like, oh, no. Like, I jokingly said, they said, what do you think his reaction is going to be? I said, I bet he's at a fucking Brewster's right now getting ice cream with his family. He has no idea. Turns out they called him as they were on the clock to let them know this is what we're doing, which is a shitty thing to do as a franchise. Like, I don't care if you're paying him $100 million. He might not care. That's a shitty way to go about doing business. That's just a shitty thing to do.
I have been steadily beating this drum, and it's not great. It kind of reminds me of the end of the Bowden years, to be honest, where it's like clearly the issue is that he's super old and he's not running things the right way anymore. So you hate to disparage the man, but it's also life to go. I feel the same way about Arthur Blank.
Get him out of there.
I was watching Cover 3 podcasts before we came on, and Tom Fornelli said he's heard within, circles that Blank is the one that made this move. Like he told Fontenot and Raheem, I want Penix at 8. Now, I don't know if that's true. That's what Tom Fornelli of Cover 3 podcast said. But it seems like there's always just so much going on with the Falcons off the field that isn't good, and that comes directly from the top.
Yeah. And also, like...
And Arthur Blank is a great man. He's done a lot for the city of Atlanta.
For sure.
He's done a lot for people in the city of Atlanta. He obviously, Home Depot, smash success. PGA Superstore, love it.
Love the $2 hot dogs on the third level of the building. Love it.
Yeah.
Love all that. You know what else I love?
In Mercedes-Benz, but the Falcons have been a disaster.
Do you know what else I love, though? Is when you have wants and needs, and your wants and needs are a defensive end because you've been dead last in the entire NFL in the last 3 years in sacks, right, as a defense with 81. So you have a pressing concern. Well, at least in the second round, go up and get somebody. They also talk about needing a quarterback. Like there was cornerbacks available, like in that position. Cooper DeJean was out of reach.
Kool-Aid was there too, wasn't he?
Who?
Wasn't Kool-Aid there in the second round?
Yeah. Because they both went after the Falcons, who traded up at 35 to get what was it, Tyler? You need
a run-stopping defensive tackle.
Defensive tackle. Whatever. We don't have to talk with the Falcons the whole time.
Let's talk about like teams that actually draft well.
I love what the Cardinals did, but they also had like a volume amount of picks. Like, I mean, they were just throwing up shots basically. Like they had. It would be hard for you to fuck up a draft with 11 players.
Yeah, they got Marvin Harrison and Darius Robinson from Missouri in the first round. In the second round, they got a Rutgers corner, which I'll be honest, don't know much about him. Third round, obviously love my guy Trey Benson. 2 guys from Illinois. Actually, they had 4 third-round picks. Yeah, it is kind of hard to screw up when you have this many. They got Xavier Thomas, who,
Dude, Xavier Thomas, who I watched play in person at the 2018 National Championship, just got drafted.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah,
one thing I did not like was, and this is just me being petty, and I'll admit it, you see the logo on the hat, that's fine. I'm not going to spend a ton of time going to bat for Mac Jones. We can call him a bust. We can say whatever. I will say this. If we're going to talk about Mac Jones being a bust, let's also discuss the fact that you did nothing to put anything around him. You're the greatest franchise in the NFL over the last 20 years. And you did nothing to put anything around him and build around him on the offense, for one. 2, I've never heard of this, and I'm shocked because I talk about it a lot when I bring up Mac Jones. I'm shocked that this has never been brought up, or hardly is ever brought up. The Patriots were the only franchise I've ever heard of. Mac Jones made a Pro Bowl his rookie season. The second season, they brought in a new offensive coordinator, and it was a defensive coordinator. They let Matt Patricia be the offensive coordinator. I've never fucking heard of that in my life. But now I love the fact that they go out and they get Drake May, and then just offensive weapons and offensive line galore. Like that was the whole focus of the draft. So maybe they learned their lesson. I don't know, or maybe they're doing the right thing.
I definitely think it's an interesting time frame if you're a Patriots fan, since you're used to so much winning, and obviously the last few years hasn't been great, but they're about to be the dregs of that division for the next couple of years.
Sure.
Let's talk about the Eagles. I feel like the Eagles are the best drafting team in this
sport. Ever.
So I don't know, it's probably just pure luck at that point, but they pick 22. They get what most consider the best corner off the board because nobody was drafting defense. And then in the second round, they're like, oh, Cooper DeJean, who a lot of people thought was going to go first round, and actually has a lot more value now with these new rules of the NFL kickoffs. He's just going to be sitting there at 40. We'll trade up, grab him. We'll grab Will Shipley. We'll grab Aeneas Smith, Jeremiah Trotter from Clemson, Johnny Wilson, my guy.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, they just, like, not every big-name guy from big-name teams works out, but it seems like it does for the Eagles.
Yeah. Again, oh, my God, the Lightning just had their second goal taken away. I was a big Lightning fan. Anyway, but she also just broke up with me because of my comment earlier. So we're going through that. So
single now? Single?
We're here again, guys. We're here again. No. So let's also talk about like what we know the most about, which is not NFL stuff. We're not going to pretend to get into like draft grades. I thought the draft grades thing was weird because the lowest grade I saw from Mel Kiper was a C for the Falcons. That was the lowest grade.
Yeah. They got the lowest grade in pretty much every recap I watched.
Which is of course that makes sense, but like there's not an F or a D, just a C, which seems like it's not drastic enough, I guess. And then I also saw on PFF, I did a graphic for our old producer Dan about the AFC South, and 4 teams, 1 got a B+, the other 3 got A-. So it's like it just seems like it was very. I don't know if there's a curve this year. I don't know about with the grading, but that's all. Let's talk about some of the other stuff though. Like I sent you all the graphics. Can we bring them in here?
Pull them up. Yep.
Yeah. Let's start with the conference. Obviously, this will get into like the recap of some of the stuff we were impressed with. For an 18 straight year, the SEC finishes with the most players drafted. They finished with 59, which was, I know, first time they haven't had 60 since 2018, I believe. But that's not right. How do you do this every time?
How do you take that thing off?
I sent you all of these via text.
And that's what I'm showing.
All right.
What do you want to look at?
Not even the right. It's not even the right graphic. So.
You want to control it?
No, I hate everything. This sucks.
Give me some time. Be nice.
All right. Anyway, just put in the right graphic. So they had the most draft picks out of every. Of course, it's a comment now. They had the most draft picks. Out of any conference. Also, like shout out to the Pac-12. Like the way this has happened the last several years, it's like the Big Ten is second. Usually the ACC is third, and then it's like Big 12, Pac-12. Pac-12 is like always like at the very bottom. Pac-12, I think, finished second or third, and in all three of the other major conferences, Pac-12, Big Ten, and ACC finished within one of each other. Now the Big 12, shout out to Texas. Like I thought it was very interesting. This is like something we've seen several times now in the last little while, which is.
Hey, there you go. Let's talk about the SEC draft picks.
Yeah, we'll just go back to this then. Okay, so all right. And the next one, Tyler, I want you to bring up, just have it in the queue. The next one I want you to bring up total draft picks by team in general college football. So this was by in the SEC. So surprisingly enough, Alabama finishes with 10. More than everyone else. How about Mizzou finishing with 6, which was
no team on the rise, and they've still got a lot of draft eligible guys on their roster next year too.
And these were a lot of defensive players too, which is very surprising. Auburn, I thought Auburn had one. I definitely had my fun with Auburn because at one point in the draft they had zero draft picks through the first 2 days, and they didn't have one until the 5th round. Yes, Dakota makes a very good point, which we'll get to that as well. But at the situation for Auburn, they didn't have a single player drafted until the 5th round. Ends up they get, I think, 3 total players in their secondary drafted. They have a kid, I think it was DJ James, I believe. They got drafted to Seattle, which pairs them with another another Auburn cornerback. So that's pretty cool to see. But there's a lot of value in some of those picks they had too. Like the first DB, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. I think it's Nehemiah Pridgett. That's like a 6'1", 190-pound, like prototypical size cornerback that ran a 4.36 and somehow slipped to the 5th round after being a starter in the SEC. So I think there's a lot of value from there. Man, Tennessee just surprised because this is going into year 5 or year 4 or year 5. I think it's year 4 of Heupel. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think it's year 4. I mean, just kind of surprised. Like the line that they were on, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. I just was kind of shocked by that.
What year is Napier going into? His 3rd?
Yeah.
1 draft pick?
And it was okay, to his credit, because like Billy Napier, dude, he's been getting shit on by everyone. And I get it. Like I don't have enough interactions with Florida fans to understand the hate, but people hate them online, and they don't really help themselves out like most fans don't. But people are really basking in the waning success that is happening. I wouldn't even say waning because it's just not successful anymore. But like only 1 draft pick from this year's team. Tyler, it was one of the players he brought from Louisiana. It wasn't even a recruit to Florida.
No, he actually didn't even bring him from there. It was Ricky Pearsall. He came from Arizona State.
You're right.
Look, and I'm not gonna sit here and bash. I mean, Florida State had 10 players drafted, and a lot of them were transfers. So
yeah,
but that's the name of the game. But like, if you're gonna be bringing in transfers, probably bring in more than one that can get drafted.
Yeah. Show me. Well, you know what? Go to the Georgia thing real quick. I think this is a really good point. I genuinely hate to piggyback the Napier slander off this, but the development graphic from I thought this was really interesting, and I understand that A.D. Mitchell ended up at Texas, but when you talk about bringing in and evaluating talent, I thought this was extremely, extremely interesting from how good of a job Georgia did. Now, listen, it's easy to bring in 5 stars and win, right? It's the name of the game in recruiting. We all know that. By the way, next episode, we're going to have this thing fucking figured out. I should have done it this week, and I botched it.
We want to do this so it's bigger and then take away this.
I can't see it behind the thing, and there's some of the bottoms I want to see. Also, it's grainy, and I don't understand why. So I just need to tinker with it. It's fine. All right. So you look at a team like Georgia. We just talked about like Florida. I tell you another really good example of this is Clemson. Clemson, specifically on the offensive line, just does not recruit really or develop talent on the offensive line. I think they've had 1 player drafted off the offensive line in like since Dabo's been there, and it was like a second draft. That's insane, right? Like that's really, really bad. I know that they only had 1 drafted inside the top like 5 rounds, which is again like they don't recruit heavily there, and they've had success, but like there's a reason why that success seems like it was in a very small window, and they weren't able to sustain it. But you look at Georgia, and on the left is where you have like their recruiting ranking out of high school. Brock Bowers at 59. Again, like that's like from what I remember, Harry McGee, feel free to correct me, but it wasn't like you came out with the rankings at the start of their junior year or senior year and been like, hey, this is the 59th best player. That's like a diamond in the rough type situation that they found tape on in Napa, and Kirby even said, he's like, how is nobody recruiting this kid? Ladd McConkey, you look at his national ranking, right?
Yeah. Kamari Lassiter, 1,147 overall.
Insane.
34th overall in the draft.
A.D. Mitchell, not a top 247 player, ends up being a starter as true freshman. I mean, if you remember, A.D. Mitchell came out and was a star in the spring game, and then during the season, like it caught a touchdown pass in the national championship game, caught one against Michigan. Arguably not a more clutch skill position player in college football over the last 3 years when you look at the grand scheme of things, and they played against elite talent. Javon Bullard, kid from Milledgeville, Georgia, 3-star, 526 overall. Again, the only one that went down that had a lower draft grade than initial recruiting ranking nationally was Amarius Mims, and he went from 15 to 18. And again, I talked about this on Thursday. You want to talk about putting something in your back pocket, like you absolutely like a trump card, reverse Uno, whatever you want to say for Kirby Smart to go into a kid's home and be like, hey, do you want to see why you should come to the University of Georgia? Amarius Mims started 8 games. He got drafted 18th overall. Like that's like, and then by the way, here's the evals we did personally as a coaching staff on all these other players, and here's where they ended up going in the draft. Not like we brought in a shit ton of 5 stars. We brought in all these top 100 players. Here's where they were. Here's where they got drafted. I tell you what, Tyler, that's one of the most impressive things I've seen. I feel like in quite some time. That's just because George is also in a position or a place now where they could go get the pick of anybody that's a 5-star, and they committed to their evals and bring in a guy like Ladd McConkey and Javon Bullard especially. Super impressive.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to follow Mims. I feel like obviously everything sticks out about him physically, but the fact that he's barely played, I don't know. We'll see. But
I don't really. I'll say this from a fan standpoint: like he flirted with leaving to go to Florida State, somehow gets Florida State in trouble.
Yeah,
and I stand by everything I just said for how impressive it is with Kirby and him being able to bring him back. But like. Those are all the things that he did initially, right? And then you talk about the fact that he didn't play against Bama. They lose, and he was like, "If I would have played, we would have won," which was hysterical for me, just as like the pettiness out of me. And maybe he's not even wrong, but like he says that Saban made a couple comments about his consistency or inconsistency as a player, and he didn't really like to hear it. Like. We've seen a couple of Georgia players that have gone early and have not fared that well. Like a majority of them have done extremely well, I feel like, especially early on. We've seen a couple. Isaiah Wilson's one who, I think it's like more of like a mental health thing. And then who's the receiver that got in trouble for like robbing someone at gunpoint? Not receiver, defensive back, DeAndre Baker.
Oh yeah.
But hopefully the best for this kid. This I thought was really interesting. For a number of reasons, Tyler. Michigan ends with the most draft picks? Like, just look. You tell who were the best 6 teams in the country last year?
I'd probably go with Michigan, Texas, Washington, Florida State, and Alabama. I'm just kidding. Georgia's obviously up there as well, but
yeah,
I was just reading off the draft there.
Which is it's really impressive. Like those are the teams that were able to develop that quickly.
There's been a lot of that's being made now that with NIL and the portal. I think there was only one G5 guy that was drafted in the first round.
Quinyon Mitchell.
And Saban actually came out, maybe Freudian slip, maybe not, but he was like, we tried to get him in the portal and come to us. It's like, hey, bro, that's tampering.
I mean,
and that's why he left, because he's like, I can't do all this shit.
Who cares? I mean, I don't know if he was admitting
everybody's doing
it. I mean, everyone. I don't really give a shit if he was or not. Like, what was crazy to me was he was saying that, and then because they needed another, they needed a safety. Jalen Key, who was Mr. Irrelevant, he started a bunch last year in the back end at safety for Alabama. Quinyon Mitchell would not have been a starter at corner over Terrion Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So it's probably for the best that he didn't go there.
Although he did.
I thought it was dude, Texas is a team that we've ad nauseum talked about how they just underperformed and they didn't less with more, and they have this recruiting fertile ground of recruiting in their backyard. And they just never get these top level recruits, and they don't I think Texas only had one offensive player drafted in the last before Bijan Robinson in the last 10 years. That can't be right. But I
trying to think.
Connor did a big piece about it. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
But Texas, what I didn't realize that Devondre Sweat, got drafted by the Titans in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
He got a DUI the Sunday before the draft.
How do you do that?
He was also he has a known alcohol problem. It was brought up in pre-draft interviews, and he still went out and got a DUI, and still got drafted in the second round. By the way. That's smart. Just go ahead and put him in Nashville. I'm sure it's a low key town. There's not a lot going on there. And
yeah, that kid could have benefited from being drafted to where Minneapolis. Yeah, Green Bay would have been best for him for sure. Yeah, I mean, honestly, we're never gonna make fun of a substance abuse problem that somebody has on here, especially me.
Yeah.
But I just that's tough. I mean, I say this I feel like at least once every couple of months, Tyler. In this day and age, how do you get a DUI in this day and age with Uber?
Yeah, especially if it's tough. I mean, look, I'm not gonna hate on DUIs either because I know plenty of people that have them.
Yeah.
The problem is, Chris, when you have too much to drink, you get a false sense of confidence. You're like, I could drive home, it's fine, and usually you're wrong. So I thought that was interesting. What else was interesting? As a Florida State fan,
fucking graphics. There's tons of topics in there.
As a Florida State fan, I was fired up to see Keon Coleman go to the Bills because that's you want to talk about a ready-made you could get in the Pro Bowl in your first year. Go to Josh Allen. They have no receivers. Diggs is gone. Right. Gabriel Davis is gone. So I was happy for him. And his press conferences have already been off the charts.
Yeah.
He's funny.
And being in Buffalo, that's a place that's you can become a cult hero in Buffalo.
Oh, 100 ways. All right, which one do you want me to show next, Chris? Because there are.
Let me see. Well, I don't know what all I say. So go to the Kirby one.
Okay, go to the Kirby one.
We probably should have done this after the Georgia thing, but this is. I put up this graphic last year, and it was 55 total players that have been taken under Kirby Smart in the draft in his first 7 years, which is far and away more.
I thought you were talking about this Kirby one.
You can bring that one. I'll start with this one then. You are fucking killing me on the graphics. I should have queued them up and put them in order, but because we have 87,000 that I put in the branding, I need to delete. So it's on me. Okay, so
let's be fair. You sent me these graphics at 8:27 p.m.
It was later than that. I'm pretty sure because we were coming on here. Of course. Should just trade it back, man. Should pull the Bills. Okay, so one of the crazy impressive things from this weekend, Kirby Smart now, Georgia, I think with 2 players drafted in the first round. Kirby Smart has his first round draft picks totaled at 17 total losses in 8 years as a head coach is 16. We've seen that with Nick Saban, obviously, during his time at Alabama. I think Ryan Day, there was a bunch of, I put out this graphic, which I just thought was crazy impressive. Yeah, thank you, Dakota. Crazy impressive. Like, because 8 years is like, we're talking about nearly a decade, and he's putting out more not draft picks, first rounders than total losses. Ohio State fans were like all up their feels about it. They're like, how come Ryan Day's the same thing? He's got 10 and only 8 losses. And I'm like, all right, well, give him some more time. Kirby's also been doing it against Nick Saban in the toughest. Like, dude, 5 of those losses are to Nick Saban.
That's crazy.
That's insane. Like, I mean, think about this for a second. And this can be a whole deep dive. 16 losses for Kirby, right? 5 of them were his first year. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
5 were to Nick Saban. 1 was to 2019 LSU. Like, so that's 11 of the 16 losses that are like. I mean, what
are the other ones?
Huh?
What are the other ones? Do you even know?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you want me to get into them? 2017 Auburn, they got beat by 23. And they were the number 1 team in the country. They got beat 40-17. 2018, they lost at LSU by 20 when they were favored by 7. Okay. That was an Ed Orgeron team. Then they lost to Bama in Atlanta. 2019, they lost to 4-8 South Carolina at home in double overtime. And then to LSU. They also lost to Texas in a bowl game. 2020, they lost to Bama, and then Florida when they had a 14-point lead but couldn't stop a wheel route and lost by like 44-28 or 30 or something like that. And then 21, they lost to Bama. 23, they lost to Bama. So how about this? How about his last 5 losses? 3 to Saban, 1 to 2019 LSU, and then 1 to the best Florida team that's not won a national championship.
In a fake year, right? Is that 2020?
Yeah. Anyway, but this is an insane stat. They also, CBS put out a graphic today in like the first 8 years, not overall, but the first 8 years at a program, Kirby Smart has put out 63 draft picks. Saban had 48 at Bama. So, I mean, you're talking about, dude, the pace that he is at. The pace that he is at right now is insane. And, dude, Saban's first 8 years in Alabama, 07, 08, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So he won 3 national titles in those 8 years. I mean, like, comparatively, the trajectory of where Kirby's going is.
And you think about it, like, a lot of that success that Saban had is mainly Kirby, too,
I will actually fucking kill you. So.
I loved how the Falcons did the classic Falcons move where they drafted a Georgia player in the 7th round. Like, see, we draft Georgia players.
And they've only been like 3 years, too, man. Like, before it was even worse.
I've never even heard of the guy they drafted out of Georgia, to be honest.
Who was it?
Logie or something. He's a D tackle.
Oh, Logue?
Logue, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good pick. Probably should have traded for the 2nd round to go get him, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, overall, man, it's the numbers. Like, you had 2 NBA playoffs on during the NFL draft, and the draft just crushed them in ratings. Yeah. There was 150,000 people 2 hours before the draft even started there at the draft.
Yeah.
Like, the NFL is just so beyond every other sport when it comes to fan interest, coverage. I mean, it's insane.
Dude, so how about this too? We probably should have opened with this earlier. Like, shout out the city of Detroit. Yeah. I mean, like, that has been a butt of jokes, I feel like, nationally for a long time, even though they've like tried to upgrade the city a decent amount. Like, I know I've made fun of Detroit a whole bunch. Like, that is 700,000 people.
It's them in Cleveland. Like, they just take it all.
Yeah, but Cleveland is just like there's nothing in Cleveland. At least you're not getting your hubcap stolen like in Cleveland as much as you are in Detroit. But Detroit, again, remember our buddy from our very first year of doing this, our fantasy football guru, Tyler Del Duca, from Flint, Michigan. He was there.
Flint's beautiful.
This time of year, especially.
Yeah.
The flowers are dying.
Yeah. How cool was that to see Terrion Arnold drafted in Detroit by the Lions? Like, that was cool.
Can we talk about
of course, like Detroit, if I was gonna pick one team, that's Sione Vaki, the guy that played both ways for Utah.
Yeah.
He's just like a beast of an athlete. It would be Detroit. Like, that's just like a Dan Campbell guy.
Yeah. Other takeaways. How about this? The first player drafted in the 7th round. I don't remember his name, but he came from like the university school of like NFL university over in
in England?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a guy. Yeah.
And Jeff Williams is kind of in your koozie, by the way. Jeff Williams sent me that koozie, and I have it sitting in the other room like an idiot, and I meant to put it on for this episode. So I appreciate that, Jeff. I apologize.
Yeah, they were cool. So when you went through the line, they were just sitting on the register, $5.
Oh, nice.
They just slip right around the cup or a can. A little too big for this Mick Ultra, but
it's a Magnum koozie. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
So like the first player drafted was this like it was like NFL England something. It's like this school that trains like the whole point is for you to go train, develop, and try to get to the league. And it's like they have
it's like an even bigger IMG. Like no school at all. You're just doing football.
And it's strictly for the NFL. And so it's like, I mean, we're talking about a fast track to getting drafted. So the first player drafted was in the 7th round, he was 6'7", 303 pounds. He ran a 4.79. It's like a former rugby player. Tyler, I'm telling you, if I was a GM, every single pick I made in the 7th round every year would be somebody like that, a Samoan. Like, I don't even care if he played sports. It just could be like Moana's friend, whatever The Rock was. Somebody like that, or like a punter from Australia. Like that, I'm strictly going NFL UGA 7th round picks.
Center from NC State.
Who's that?
Like the basketball center.
Yeah. DJ Burke.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I thought it was a great draft. I mean, I was happy to see Florida State get 10 guys in. I actually thought it'd be a little bit more than that, but yeah, man, I'm excited to finally see Florida State get back on the board. It's been a few years since we've had a nice little run.
Can we talk about one negative thing from the draft besides the Falcons that I can come up with?
Please.
2nd round. Never thought I would have to say this about the NFL draft. A little bit too many Germans. Too many Germans involved in the 2nd round. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing? Like, it's just so forced. It's like, up next from Germany, they're picking for the Atlanta Falcons. And it was like, thank you, Detroit. And then that's not a good German accent. I don't really know what they talk.
Yeah, they had the first pick or one of the picks, maybe of the 3rd round. I think it was a German guy, like in person.
Fan of the year.
Yeah, fan of the year from Carolina. He's like, pound it. Like, dude.
Hey, man. I don't know why we're getting German so much FaceTime. It hasn't been that long ago, so maybe we backtrack on that. Maybe we wait till the century marks pass on those atrocities before we let them be involved in the NFL.
All right. What do you want to pivot to next? A couple of spring games. There weren't many left over the weekend, but
seamless transition out of this. Okay, we could just be very brief on this. So there was a couple of spring games out west. I think Washington had their game. Oregon State, Oregon had a nice turnout, by the way. One thing I thought was funny was Oregon had a touchdown from Dante Moore, and it was like, oh, Dante Moore takes it to the house from 65 yards out, and it was like the most Make-A-Wish kid touchdown. Like, he drops back, he like runs up in the pocket, and then everyone's like, And, and they just let him keep going, and then he scores, and they were like, "What?" Like
Maserati Mars.
No, so Oregon had theirs. I will say this, and we can get to this later as we get close to the season. The person and player that I think is the most overrated player in the country right now, and I don't even care how this sounds. The amount of stock that people are putting into Dillon Gabriel as being an elite prospect and an elite college football quarterback for next year, I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit. I understand that he's a good college quarterback. I don't think he's a first round draft pick, for one. Two, did I miss something that Oregon? I know they got Evan Stewart. Do they have just a fuck ton of weapons that they didn't lose? They lost 8 to the draft, including several key offensive players. Why do we just assume that a defensive coach out there going into a new conference that'll be tougher than any conference they played in their entire program history is all of a sudden going to waltz into not only like Heisman contention, but also the college football playoff contention as well? I think it's a little bit premature.
No, it's a good point. I mean, I don't think Gabriel had a great year last year. Like, he was good, but it's not like he was some program changer. I mean, Oklahoma, what'd they end up with? I know he was injured some of the year, but they had what, 4 or 5 losses?
No. Remember I was wrong about this. Because I thought they went like 7-5. You're like, they won 10 games last year.
They won 10 games last year?
Yeah, we keep fucking this up. I mean, so his numbers are actually really good from last year.
That went under the radar a little bit. No, he's a totally fine quarterback. Now, he also is in a very friendly system.
Yeah.
That he will not be in anymore. He's in I don't know if they did the dink and dunk offense at Oregon because of Bo Nix's limitations.
Right.
Or that's just the way they roll. I'll have to look into that over the offseason to see kind of what those numbers look like. But yeah, as far as like stretching the ball down the field, like you don't have to do that in Oregon's offense, or at least in the Bo Nix position. So he could still be good because he's pretty accurate. Like, and that's how Bo Nix was too, you know?
So he finished last season with a 69% completion percentage, 3,600 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 87 QBR, which was 4th in the country. All of those numbers are good. What I'm saying to you right now is there's a reason why, one, that Oklahoma was totally fine in a year they're going to the SEC. Like, in a year that it's not make or break, but it's like you better put your best foot forward. You only get one first impression. All those cliches. You're going into the SEC. You need to be as fully fucking loaded as possible. And you let your quarterback walk to start a freshman next year, Jackson Arnold. And Jackson Arnold's very talented. He's a very talented kid. I think it'll be a lot of fun. But you're making a long-term investment based off like with all of those like parts of the equation that were involved. You just can't convince me right now that Dillon Gabriel is like some world beater. And again, the numbers are great. He did it in the Big 12, which is like notoriously the shittiest defensive conference in the country. So I'm very hesitant on Dillon Gabriel. I still think Dante Moore, from everything we've ever seen from Oregon quarterbacks, I feel like Dante Moore is the guy that like fits, I don't say that scheme, but fits like that personality of what we've seen from Oregon quarterbacks.
Yeah, you got to imagine Gabriel starts the year, and depending on how it goes, I always thought it was weird that him and Dante Moore was like the Falcons moves.
Yeah,
except I guess NIL you got to pay him now too, but it's like you brought in Gabriel, and then like, oh, we're also going to bring in Dante Moore, and he's just going to sit on the bench.
Right.
But hey, it does pay sometimes to have 2 talented quarterbacks ready to go.
The other one, and it's the one I made the actual banner for. Now listen,
Raiola slinging this little pigskin around the rock a little bit. I don't know. That didn't make sense, but dude, I mean, so from what I heard, like a lot of defensive players out for this game, very much skewed towards the offense, but it's nice to see when you bring in a guy that is has so much hype coming around, and the dude is just throwing the ball all around the lot.
Yeah. So
he'll probably just transfer to Georgia at some point anyways, right?
You got to get into the Rashada thing. Rashada transferred. All right, so here's the thing. Raiola, our buddy JD Patel talked about this, and I think JD is great, does a tremendous job. He said it best. And what he said was, like, let's stop with the bullshit. He didn't say bullshit. He doesn't cuss. He's a really good dude. He's like Josh Pate with hair. But he was like, basically, he's like, let's just call it what it is. Like, let's just get all our cards on the table here. He's the starter. And he should be. Like, this has all the makings of what you want to resurrect a program. This is, I hate to use this example, but Christian Hackenberg going to Penn State, it's that level of hype. And I understand that Hackenberg didn't lead them to anything great, but, his freshman year where he came out and then, lit the world on fire was it felt like he kind of saved the program from where they were at. And they were at a much lower place, especially off the field, than Nebraska has been. But there's something to be said for having a freshman quarterback, especially that is like a number 1 ranked recruit, the highest recruit in program history from a very proud program, right? Like him coming in and having a game where he throws for 239 yards in the first half of the spring game. I fully get that it's a spring game. Nebraska didn't have a quarterback throw for more than 200 yards in a single game last season. This kid comes out in the first half of his first live appearance and he throws for 239. I just think that's super big for that program. Am I overreacting to that?
No. I mean, because let's be honest. So if it went the other way and he came out and was terrible, everyone would be talking about that too. So
Arch Manning.
Yeah, you'd much rather have it this way. And let's be honest, I would like to see Nebraska take a step forward in the pantheon of college football. I mean, it's been a long time since they've been relevant at all. And I'll be honest, I like them better than Penn State just on a personal level. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Franklin. You had all the weird stuff that happened there in the late 2000s.
Well, first off, we don't need to get into this, but it was happening since 1973, and you fucking swept under the rug until the late 2000s.
Right. Yes.
But we don't have to get. I mean, there's no better team that should have ever lost their college football program than Penn State.
Yeah, and they've got a diehard fan base. I mean, they saw their spring game. Like it probably goes unnoticed by a lot of people because no one really cares about Nebraska. But like their fan turnout to pretty much everything is almost second to none. I mean, they have a ridiculous fan base.
I think it's almost gotten. I think they've got a ton of praise for the football stuff because even when they were super shitty, they were selling out spring games. The most impressive thing I've ever seen, maybe in college sports, and like from a fan base, is the 3 I can think of that we talk about the most: Nebraska spring game when they were 4-8, 2000 or 2001 South Carolina, who sold out every game, but they went 0-11. But the fact that Nebraska had 80,000 or 83,000 fans show up for a volleyball game, a women's volleyball game, that's awesome. That's just so cool. Okay, so that was the spring game stuff. We don't need to get too into this, but the early mocks for next year have already come out, which feels crazy. And I will also say this: it almost feels like these are never right.
They're so laughable when you go back and look at them. Like if you were to go back and look at a early 2024 mock,
I'm gonna do that right now.
Yeah,
dude,
you should. Because I know CBS Sports has Shedeur Sanders as the number 1 pick.
I don't. I think that's the best betting odds.
And they have Travis Hunter as the number 2 pick.
Who?
Travis Hunter.
That one does make sense.
You can see it for sure.
I know you hate
Travis
him.
Hunter plays both ways in the NFL.
I don't know. You can identify as anything now. What are you talking about?
That's true.
Okay. Here you go. NFL first round projections heading into training camp. All right, so I'll read you these in order, Tyler. Number 1, Caleb Williams.
Okay? Oh, there you go.
Number 2, Marvin Harrison. How about you pull up on your own and you tell me this is not bad. Number 3, Olu Fashanu, who was a top 15 pick.
Okay.
4, Drake May.
All right.
They have 5th to the Falcons, Dallas Turner. Brock Bowers to the Titans at 6. Joe Alt to the Commanders at 7. Wow. Now, Jared Verse at 8. He still went first round, right?
Yeah, he was still first rounder.
Emeka Egbuka, who came back to school, so wasn't even eligible. Kool-Aid at 10, and I still don't understand how he wasn't a first-round pick. JT Tuimoloau came back to school. Now, this is the one, dude. This is the one.
Ohio State having all these guys come back to school. Good for them.
Ohio State is my favorite to win the national championship. This is the one that I think that stood out the most. Kalen King from Penn State, who was a surefire projected first-round draft pick, and he was drafted 251st overall, third to last pick of the entire draft. That's where he went. Mason Smith at 13. He ended up going 48. J.C. Latham at 14. He went right around there. Roma Dunze. Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. I think he was a first rounder, wasn't he?
No, but he did get drafted.
He got drafted high, I'm pretty sure. Xavier Worthy, first rounder. Jerzon Newton, who was Chop Robinson.
Yep, he won the first round.
Ooh, Jeremiah Trotter at 20.
He went in the 5th round.
Michael Hall went very late.
Yeah.
They had him at 21. Oronde Gadsden from Syracuse. I don't know.
Yeah, he came back and is still at Syracuse. One of the more strange things.
Wow. Donovan Jackson from Ohio State.
I don't know.
Denzel Burke from Ohio State.
I feel like Donovan Jackson might be the most common college football name of all time.
Yeah.
I have no idea who that guy is. I'm sure he's great, but like,
yeah.
People told me he played for Michigan. I've been like, okay, yeah, safety.
That's really smart. All right, Jatavian Sanders, who fell to the 2nd round. Kingsley Suamatia, whatever, from BYU.
He went in the 2nd round.
Andrew Makuba, who was a safety at Clemson.
By the way, Kingsley's whatever his name is, that was the one that they made Jamal Charles read off when he doesn't really know how to read, which is tough.
That is tough. He's got a disorder apparently.
I know. I'm not making fun of him. They sent him out to make that pick. I can't even read that pick. That's me.
You're a notoriously bad reader. I think everyone on the show knows that. I mean, we see there's private chat. And there's also the comments. People comment on it all the time. Tell us in the chat.
What do you think of my reading skills?
Yeah, what you know his reading skills. Okay, Braylon Trice from Washington. I don't remember him. Did he come back?
Braylon Trice got drafted by the Falcons. There you go.
5th round?
3rd round.
3rd round, you're right. Malik Neighbors. Barrett Carter, who definitely came back and is projected first round next year, and then Kalen Bullock from South Carolina. So honestly, and Leonard Taylor from Miami. Dude, the Miami.
Oh, yeah. He didn't get drafted.
That was really tough. Anyway, let's get into this year. Way too early for next year. You go ahead, lead the way. I've talked way too much on this podcast.
All right, so they got Shedeur Sanders, number 1 overall, Travis Hunter, number 2. Then, for all you Georgia fans out there, Michael Williams, number 3 to the Patriots. Harold Perkins, 4, Fields Rich. I know that he's obviously got the talent, but it seems like for 2 straight years we've been wondering where the hell he is.
Yeah.
So that's just probably a pure talent pick.
First year he was great.
JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State at 5. Carson Beck at 6. First quarterback taken, right?
I think Carson Beck. If there was a way to put money on this, Carson Beck's a top 10 pick. I would jump all over it.
I would too. Let me ask you this. As much as everyone's worried about all the Caleb Williams, what's he off the field? He's kind of a weird guy, this, that, or the other. Shedeur Sanders, to me, I'd be more concerned about having just having to deal with weird stuff. And again, not getting arrested, but just weird, thinks you're better than everybody type vibes. The talent's there for sure, but do you worry about that with Shedeur at all?
Yeah, way more than Caleb Williams. And here's one of the reasons why. Caleb Williams seems like, and maybe it's because we've seen him more. They brought this up when he got drafted. Caleb Williams is really the first product we've seen from the NIL era that's a product of the NIL era, right? That's what they said. I disagree with that. I think it is Shedeur Sanders because here's the thing. Caleb Williams has been a 5-star quarterback, the number 1 recruit, came in, took the starting job from another guy who was picked to be a first-round draft pick, Spencer Rattler at the time, and a starter for a year and a half at OU. Like, he came in, took his job, followed Lincoln Riley to California. Like, they've said over and over, Bryce Young, who I am a huge fan of and always will be, if Caleb Williams was draft eligible last year, he would have been the number one pick then, right? Like, so he's had this under a microscope type stuff, and like for a very long time, he's been rated very highly and considered and regarded very highly for a long time. People put shit on him when Southern Cal doesn't win and they go 7-5. It somehow falls on him. I haven't ever heard that with Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders he's in my opinion, the first real product of the NIL era because, and maybe I'm wrong about this, and I don't know the kid, and maybe this comes off as wrong. But you want to talk about the first product from the entitled era of NIL, it's Shedeur Sanders. And a kid who followed his dad. I don't remember him being super heavily recruited. Obviously, he was right. So he goes to Jackson State. Then his dad just fucking nepo babies his way into the starting job at Colorado. And he was probably the best quarterback they were going to have. But they said from the beginning, I'm bringing my luggage, and it's Louis. Like, he's going to be the starter. So he starts, put up decent numbers. But, dude, like, if there's a program and a player that has gotten more unwarranted praise versus the actual success they've had on the field, it's Colorado and Shedeur Sanders. And that may sound harsh, and like it was his first season in Power 5, whatever, but like there's no part of me that looks at that kid and thinks that guy is going to be a leader of men in the locker room from day one. The kid that went and ran to the fucking end zone and after an overtime win against 1-5 Arizona State, pointing at his wristwatch to a bunch of college kids, like, bro, fuck off. Like, that is so fucking ridiculous. Like, the flex of a student athlete running to a bunch of actual students to show off how much more money and like tangible materialistic things he has. Maybe I'm overreacting. I thought that shit was fucking ridiculous. I thought it was ridiculous, and I thought there's not a more blatant sign of arrogance in your character as a kid than what he did there. And I'm probably getting in trouble for saying that. That's exactly what I think.
I'm actually going to double down on this because I could actually understand it if you came from a product where you came from nothing and now you have something. This kid grew up a multimillionaire.
Right.
So like to me, you could have, even if we weren't in the NIL era, you could have been, yeah, look at my rollie, whatever you want to say. It's like, okay, right, dude, your dad is the best corner to ever play in the NFL. Like, cool, you have a cool watch, dude. Like, and you just beat a terrible team. And your team
they were 1-5. They were 1-5. Like,
yeah.
Also, Tyler, let's say this. Like he opened for Lil Wayne this weekend. Like, he has been the highest NIL valuation. All of those things, I will say once again, I am so fired up that he has the opportunity to do it. That is cool as shit. When I was in college, I remember going to see Kanye at Bonnaroo, and I worked like security for Bonnaroo for the first 2 days.
It's like a flex, dude. I mean, bruh, I saw Kanye at Bonnaroo before he was like Kanye.
No, he was definitely Kanye because he pushed off his fucking start time from midnight to 2:30. Then from 2:30 every 15 minutes all the way until 5:50 a.m. and then played a 45-minute set. And it was really, really upsetting. But like, that was the coolest thing I did in college. The opening for Lil Wayne is an incredible thing. Remember, I was supposed to fucking host the halftime show pre-taping in 2018 at the National Championship and open and introduce Imagine Dragons and Lil Wayne. I didn't get to do it. So maybe this sounds like sour grapes. I think it's awesome that he got to do that. I really think that's cool. And I think it's awesome he's going to get to go out and make $5 million, mainly because I know from what I've seen in him as a quarterback, he's probably not worth that. That guy in the bottom right of the screen right there, Carson Beck, probably worth it. Probably worth it. Probably going to go win a national championship or at least play for one next year. Shedeur Sanders, $5 million for 6 wins?
5 wins. $1 million per win. Will Johnson, the Michigan corner at 7. I mean, these are obviously like they have Carson Beck going to the Broncos at 6, who just took Bo Nix in the first round. But I don't think the teams matter as much. Denzel Burke from Ohio State, another Ohio State player at 8. Cam Ward This is where I feel like sometimes they just throw quarterbacks in there. Like Cam Ward was supposed to be. He turned everybody down at first and said, "I'm entering the NFL draft," and then he was like, "No, wait, I'm going to come back to college." I'm guessing he didn't get a first round grade. Now there are players like one Michael Big Penix Energy that probably didn't have a first round grade last year, and kind of.
Side note, like I would almost guarantee you that if Cam Ward was told how this was going to play out this year, like.
Oh, he would have come out.
Be a draft pick at quarterback for 135 picks between 12 and 150 or whatever it was. Like, he probably would have entered. Also,
next year's crop is much less talented.
Yeah, that's a smart move. We talked about that before the draft. Tyler Booker at 10, which I love. I've seen that all over. Keep going. Don't try to pronounce
Princely, from former UF player that's at Ole Miss now at 11. Quinn Ewers at 12. Dante Corleone, fantastic name.
Fantastic.
O lineman from Cincinnati, or D lineman from Cincinnati in the first round.
I hope he ends up with the Jets.
Yeah, seriously. Another Ohio State player, Rebecca Ibuka. Noah Thomas, Texas A&M wide receiver. Interesting. Yeah. Donovan Jackson, yet another Ohio State player. At 16, Tyleik Williams, yet another Ohio State player, D tackle. Benjamin Morris, we don't have to list everything. Barrett Carter's a nice player from Clemson. Evan Stewart, Kelvin Banks, Denver Harris.
Yeah.
What has Denver Harris shown to say he's a first-round pick? He's played at Texas A&M and LSU in his first 2 years, and he's played in 5 games. He played in 5 games last year. I don't know about all that.
Josh Dobbs re-entering? Josh Dobbs re-entering the draft and getting taken by the Packers?
Hey, there's your boy Jalen Milroe.
Now let's talk about this.
So that's what you want me to get to.
If Jalen Milroe is a first-round pick, Tyler, another Ohio State player, by the way, do me a favor while I'm on this tangent. Will you go back and pick, or go back and count how many Ohio State players? Yeah. Who's at 32?
Quinshon Judkins.
Okay, wow, surprising. Okay, go back and count how many Ohio State fans or players there were. One, the reason why it's in question, or like surprising to me, if you remember going into this year, they had as many as 7 first-round draft picks projected by a lot of different sites, and they also had a majority of those players on defense. So
yeah, 7 again.
7 here, that would break the record, which is crazy. Jalen Milroe.
Yes.
There might not be I would potentially, as a fan, talk about like trade. If you offer me Jalen Milroe, who I have seen projected in multiple other drafts being taken by the Saints in the top 10 to 12 picks, if that happens, I will be insufferable. You want to talk about bringing up receipts? I will be fucking CVS just printing as many receipts as possible.
Kalen DeBoer just had one of his quarterbacks go in the first round this year.
Who?
Kalen DeBoer.
Dude, they had 11 players or 10 players.
But the quarterback, I'm saying, first round pick.
Yeah. Okay.
It would be controversial, awesome, dude. Everyone thought that was the pick.
I'm very high on Jalen Milroe. Everyone knows I've gone to bat for him and put up all these. Lightning definitely gonna lose. Put up all these different graphics about it. He's not a first round pick, is he? He's not a first round pick.
I don't think so. I will say he's going to be throwing a lot more in this system with DeBoer.
Yeah.
So he's going to have the chance to prove it.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we'll see. It's always fun. These drafts, these early draft mock drafts are always.
Remember Matt Miller?
Last year wasn't bad, I will say.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. Matt Miller, who's like a respectable draft person. Remember, he had Fromm as like the number 1 overall player going one year, like way too early. All right. Last but not least, this has been a long episode. I feel like I've talked way too much again. I appreciate you guys joining us. This has been a lot of fun. This always feels like the last hurrah really until like summer, because there's everything else is for the next.
All the spring games are over, draft is over, combine's over. Yeah. This is beginning to be, until we get to like mid-July when you start having SEC days. It's tough to get the content going.
But here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought this up, Tyler, because we are starting a daily show. And we talked about this in the last episode. That was kind of the whole purpose of what we want to do for Fourth and Wrong before everything happened with SDS. Where I was going to just do a daily show, like 5 minutes or 10, 15 minutes of just talking about what's going on in college football or college sports in general, blah, blah, blah. Really excited. We're going to start doing it. We're going to probably get some like weekly guests on. Drew Butler will be one. We'll have like a show with them. I got a couple other show ideas. But yeah, we'll have a daily show. It'll come out every night at 8 p.m. Eastern on the dot. You'll be able to watch it on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, Fourth and Wrong. So make sure you, like I said, go subscribe there. Make sure you tune in. It'll also be live on Facebook and Twitter as well. Every single night, Monday through Thursday at 8 p.m. The Monday show might still be at 8:30, but every other night it'll be at 8 p.m. Friday it'll be a special like brunch 11 a.m. episode, so I can enjoy my Friday nights. But
Wake Up with Chris.
Wake Up with Chris. Hey, how do you like your eggs,
guys? Have you guys checked out the latest safety Bama picked up in the portal? This guy's a monster. He's from Chattanooga.
Why is that the example you used for me? No, we'll most likely be talking about college basketball recruiting because Bama is finishing with the top 3 class. No, but it'll be like I said. So the schedule will be, everyone listen up. Monday, 8:30. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 8 p.m. And then Friday at 11. This week, tomorrow we have Chris Phillips from SEC Unfiltered. Tomorrow at 8. On Wednesday, we have Mike Bratton, SEC Mike from that SEC podcast. Thursday, we'll have Drew Butler. I believe he might be traveling. And then Friday, we'll have Barrett Salih on as well. So we'll have guests on all week, 8 p.m. every night, except for Friday at 11 a.m. Let's get into the uncensored moment of the week.
Okay. Which one are we pulling up? I've got 2. Are we talking about the baseball cheating scandal that was really just kind of ravaging the nation at this point?
This is from the deep dive earlier that I fucked up. So this is what we're talking about. Do we have the John Boy video?
We have the John Boy video. We could just play the video and then react.
Let's do that.
All right. So this, Chris, I'm gonna get this set up. Why don't you set the scene here?
All right. So this weekend, Georgia is playing at Texas A&M. Wild weekend. Okay, I believe the last game, or maybe it was the first game of the doubleheader. At one point, like Georgia had, they scored 9 runs in the first inning against number 1. A&M is ranked number 1 in the country right now. And the reason why this is also a cool matchup this weekend, A&M is ranked number 1 in the country. Georgia has far and away the best player in the country, Charlie Condon, who hit his 29th home run this season, which is
crazy.
Fucking insane.
So I didn't know that he was a walk-on.
I've heard that. I didn't know that either. But he's going to be the number 1 draft pick. Like he's incredible. But that kid, so against A&M, like great matchup. They like Georgia, like I said, they scored 9 runs in the first inning, one of their games. They lose 19-9 in that game. But Saturday night, I believe it's Saturday night, there is a video that surfaces at some point the following day. And a Georgia pitcher, Evan Grimes, I want you to chime in here and tell me if I'm wrong about any of this. A Georgia pitcher who's getting ready in the what do you call it? He was getting ready in the bullpen. He squatted down in the corner. Now, Evan already says he was taking a piss. Let me tell you what. I peed outside today. Today, Tyler, I peed outside on my walk back from the gym. I peed outside today. Never in my life have I squatted down to pee in that way. Ever. Okay. So
why don't we just go to the tape?
Huh?
Why don't we just go to the tape?
Oh, you don't want me to talk? All right. Well,
okay. No. Please.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll just go.
Georgia's got a 1-run lead on the number 1 ranked Texas A&M. Bottom of the 8th inning. The fans have a beat on the bullpen because they just got film on this guy. They knew to take out the camera and start filming because the reliever, he's actually a starter, but he's relieving in this game. Maracna goes to the corner, falling in love with the wall. You're going to see his left hand just go behind that pole, scrape something, put on the glove. Go behind the pole, scrape something, put on the glove. He stands up, and he's just putting it on the lace of the glove. Lace of the glove, and then you can see his fingers afterwards. They're a bit sticky. What was that all about? All right. He comes into the game. He's got an inherited runner. The tying run's on first. He breathes, gets in there, and number 2 on A&M, single. So now there's no outs. Go ahead runners on first. Doesn't matter. Strike 1. Doesn't matter. Strike 2. And now the 1-2 pitch is fouled back. That's important. That means we get a new ball. So the umpire gives the catcher a new ball. If a guy is using stuff to doctor the ball, this is when you go to see if he's doing it, because a brand new ball's in play after foul balls. He gets it. What's he do? That's when you go to check if you want to do this later on. And they cut to the batter, but then you can see the pitcher and straight to that spot on the glove with the right hand, feeling the glove a little bit, likes it. Likes the way it feels. Then high fastball. Nice ride on that pitch. Gets the strikeout for out 1. Now, what does sticky stuff do? Well, it sticks your fingers to the ball, which allows them to just stay on there as long as possible and really rip it down to get that extra spin rate, which makes it stay on the same plane for longer. Just that extra spin rate. Next batter comes up. Another foul ball, another new ball, and yes, you're going to go right to that spot again to make sure this new ball is loaded up and feels good. 1-0 pitch. We're locked. We're loaded. And little breaking ball, 78 miles per hour in there for strike 2. Fastball doesn't get it. A little too high. Brings it down a little bit. Strike 3. Out number 2. Look at the action here. Look at the elbow. It's kind of actually jarringly, ew, gross. And then look at those fingers just stuck on that ball, rips through it. The spin rate, just a little extra giddy up on the fastball. Next batter comes up, slider, strike 1, fastball, strike 2, and high fastball again. The high fastball, catcher's pumped. Oh, let's fucking go. He's back out there, bottom of the 9th. He's got a lead to protect. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3, high fastball again. That ride, it's nice. That's what the spin rate and the sticky stuff did in the majors as well. That high fastball just became alive. No foul balls in the 9th inning. He just mowed everyone down to get the win and close it out. Let's fucking go. Come on, baby. Let's fucking go. Fuck yeah, baby. Fuck yeah. Let's go. Come on, baby. Pumped up about it. Sticky fingers.
All right. So first off, John Boy, if you guys don't follow John Boy, I urge you to do it immediately. He is so talented, and it's awesome what he's been able to build. What his whole thing is like he will see these moments in baseball games primarily, and he's like he reads lips. It's like he can read lips. So it's like, you know, when someone gets thrown out, he's like breaking down like the ins and outs of what they're saying back and forth to each other. So here's the thing, man. I'll tell you before Georgia fans get mad. I'm someone that cheated playing baseball. Okay,
oh, yeah.
So that's right. I took steroids.
Sick.
But like, I remember having this phone call a couple years ago with my best friend Jeff, and I said, "Hey, man, I don't understand how is everyone throwing so hard." And he was like, "It's like this weird thing now. Where it's like 90 used to be the benchmark. Now it's 95, 98, like 100." And you have all these people, especially like 98 plus is like fucking gas, man. Like that's like what Smoltz used to throw, and we thought it was like how do you catch up to that? Now everyone in college is throwing that at D1, which is insane, right? The video is very damning, and it's because everything that he just pointed out, which is like he's going like all of the things, like the next steps that you would do in the process of cheating, like with what he was doing.
Yeah,
and it's weird because it's like it's not a guy that's like struggled. Like he was averaging 1.5 strikeouts like per inning as a pitcher before this weekend. He had 51 total
because he's cheating.
Right. Well, I mean, we think, but I mean, like maybe it's just this weekend. I don't know, but it's very obvious. And the whole thing that I remember saying this to Jeff, I was like, I don't understand how like I just brought up to you, like we've seen Ben Joyce, the guy from Tennessee a couple years ago. We've seen all these other starters. Jack Haggs from Florida's a lefty throwing 97. The kid from LSU Skeens last year. All these guys where it just seems like 95, 98, 98 seems to be the new norm for pitchers. And guys hitting over 100 a lot. Did you notice what that kid was staying at?
I noticed those high fastballs were about 95.
They were between 92 to 95, which is fast, but that's not unhittable, and it's not
especially 92.
Right. And the reason why that's so difficult is the spin rate, which it might not be going 95, but if you have a spin rate of 2,800 to 3,000 RPMs, which is like usually what happens to get like the sticky stuff on. It's one thing Trevor Bauer had, right? And Garrett Cole, like that's what happens. I just
sex addiction.
Huh?
I think he had a sex addiction too.
Like, what? This is the worst glasses I've ever seen. He's got so much sticky substance everywhere. That's Jesus Christ. Anyway, no. So I think that's the clip, by the way. It looks really bad. I love the fact that Evan Grimes and Harry Legee are being objective about this because it does. And see, I don't know if the coach knew. I wouldn't put it on the coach.
I love how it's like college baseball still got that kind of charming aspect where it's like it was almost like a little league thing where he had to like go in between the fence where he was like hiding some stuff pregame and like it's like it's not you're not in this like nice bullpen where you can go back in the back and just cheat however you want to. This guy's like reaching through the little fence area. It's just college baseball still got that little like amateurism to it. It is an amateur sport. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say, and I hope Allie's not watching because this is going to be bad for me.
If your name's Allie, get in the chat.
That guy's name is Christian. Perfect. Christian Marachna. Hey, bud, listen up. Here's how you should have cheated. Okay, little side note and some cheating help from Uncle Chris. You were squatted in the corner. No one could see what you were doing there. Your first name, by the way, is Christian. All you had to do was take a knee, sit there with your head down, doctor up whatever you were doing, and then get up, turn around, give a little sign of the cross, put your hat back on, whatever. No one would have said a fucking word.
And you know what he could have done? Big thing with the sign of the cross. Every time he throws a strike, he could pretend and he could just get sticky stuff. He could put it right on his forehead under his hat, right here on the chest.
We're getting away from the actual good style of cheating that I thought what I had was like good. Also, like if he just like was going like this to himself repeatedly, like, but no, I think it's a very bad look. He probably didn't even need to do it unless he has been cheating all year. It'll be very interesting to see what his numbers look like over the next couple games because it's not like it's going to get any easier. Now you're in like the meat of the season going into May, go to Hoover, regionals, all that kind of stuff. But dude, all you had to do was look at your actual first name, pretend to pray. Do you have any idea how many parking tickets and speeding tickets I've gotten out of just by pretending to pray? Don't tell my mom that.
Yeah, and you show him the tattoo.
Prodigal son, brother. You think I'd be cheating? Huh? Prodigal son, not prodigal scum. Come on, dude. Roll Tide. All right, that's it. That's all I got.
All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody. It's been a long podcast, but it's been a good one. We appreciate you guys tuning in. 5 stars on Apple and Spotify. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Let's get it. See you next week.
Bye, guys.